right. Do we have taglines?
We do indeed. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. These ones are, well, they're fun, to say the least. First one. A Stephen Sommers film.
That does not tell me anything.
No,
so
it'll sell on the fact that it's Stephen Sommers alone, right? I mean,
it'll
The
sell on
Mummy,
the fact that
Mummy
people-
Returns.
Do they know he did that, though?
I didn't until I
didn't.
looked this up.
Exactly.
Okay. The one name they all fear.
Who is they, and what is the name? Is it
The
Van
audience.
Helsing? Oh. They're all like, Van Helsing, get out.
And then Adventure Lives Forever. I mean, in terms of maybe there's a DVD out there that you can find at a flea market. Yeah, sure. So here's the budget. $160 million with a worldwide gross of $300 million. With one bad CGI early version of the Hulk, one Gatling gun crossbow, 2 hand-cranked circular saws, 4 bat people, 1 overacting Frankenstein monster, 3 werewolves, an IMDb score of 6.1, and a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 2004's Van Helsing. Let's drop some bombs.
What do you think of that? I think if you're going to kill someone, kill them. Don't stand there talking about it.
This unit 5. I have a 73, 18, 14, 11. I'm going to form a 9, 11, 10, 3. See if I can't do a 6, 1, 4, 9, 2, AB. I'm over.
The sucker was carrying a gizmo. I did you a favor, Trash.
Call me evil. Garbage day! Huh? No!
Welcome to Bombs Away. My name is Jonathan Young. Joining me in the studio, as always, is
Jarrett Seifert, and I'm that electrical-brained weird thing that you just keep coming back to.
Oh, just let that little spark in your mind that you can't get away.
Yeah. Covered in glass.
Welcome
You don't
back.
know.
Welcome back. You had the week off.
I had multiple.
What did you do?
I really didn't watch anything bad, so that was good.
Thank you.
I really loved watching good movies and actually appreciating them. So
Sorry, we're back to bad movies.
I know, it's really sad.
And today's movie, Van Helsing, was actually picked by our special guest in the studio. Joining us in the studio today is a writer-director duo. They directed this brand new short horror, right? Short horror. The title of it is Foxwood. Please welcome Trevor Dillon and Ian Hock.
Hey guys.
That's yeah.
Is that how you do an
So
intro?
that's Trevor.
Yes, that's me.
And Ian.
Ian,
How you doing?
good. We're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Gentlemen, tell us a little bit about Foxwood. Like, basically how it came to be, how you guys met, and then what inspired you to do this film in particular.
Cool. Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll keep it short. Trevor and I went to high school together. We got to know each other better in college through film and whatnot, and through our kind of mutual interest and stuff of film and genre, horror, science fiction, and all that. We kind of decided that we wanted to move forward with filmmaking, and so we started to do a bunch of like low-budget shorts, and kind of we didn't essentially go to film school, so they were kind of like trial and error sort of things and stuff, kind of get our footing in the ground and whatnot. And so we did like 2 or 3, and then our 4th was essentially Foxwood, which was our very first kind of like fully realized sort of beginning, middle, and end sort of a story with dialogue, full story, and a lot of crazy like monster horror tropes and fun things like that. So, and the idea was essentially just born out of our love of horror and horror comedy in particular as well, and we wanted to tell a sort of female-driven story that kind of played on the tropes of horror, but then also added something different as well, a little couple twists and turns here and there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We didn't meet. Again, we went to high school together and college technically, but the first time we had like a real conversation was at like a really shitty sushi restaurant. And then we were like, why don't we just like make movies, like our own movies? And so, yeah, that's what we did. And now we're 4 shorts in. And Fox was the first one we wrote and directed together, actually.
Okay. So I guess my next question is, and I do not want to spoil it for our audience out there. We'll be doing that for all of those who do not want to know what Foxwood is. Don't listen to the end of the podcast, because we're going to go into it after we do Van Helsing. We'll go into actual details and plot, and like, because I do have some specific questions for you guys about. I was so enthralled with this little short.
That's very nice.
No, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
It fascinated me. I don't know what your take on it was, Jarrett, but like,
he didn't watch
it, right? Because
no, I did.
That's what he meant by good things.
You'll
He's been
hear it
watching
at
good
the end.
things.
I was like, God, this shit.
What questions?
No, it is good.
It's really hard for me to ask questions that don't spoil it, because there's it's how did you compare it, Jarrett? Without like, what is the feel that you took from it?
It's
you said
just it's 100% just because it came out in the past week, I guess, was the 4th season of Black Mirror.
Okay.
Not to give anything away, but it's in
Feels
the realm of that.
Sure,
That's
sure.
right. You're correct.
Yeah.
nice.
I was like, it's honestly just because, like, I've never been a fan of Black Mirror, just because I don't want to feel overwhelmed and just broken down. I don't know. Black Mirror has a really strong way of making me feel sad.
Sure.
Just I don't want to live in a world like that. But like it's 100% what it connected to, and so it was a short, but I felt like it could have been that full 50 minutes of
most definitely.
terror.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of our attention. There's such a hard dynamic nowadays when you're trying to get story and things off the ground, and it's like, do you want to do a feature, or do you have to do a short first that pitches the feature world, or this or that? And so we wanted to, we arrived at the idea of telling something that was somewhat simple and self-contained, but also by the end of it kind of opened the world for potential of a bigger story. So.
Well, it gets into the whole thing of like, what is better as a quick go at it compared to a diving into and actually developing it.
Most definitely.
Yeah, the feature would not be like a longer version of the short. The feature would be what happens after the short. So really our short was like the first like 5 minutes of what the feature would be. Yeah,
the short's really what we kind of decided on, was just to kind of like do something that set up the bigger world of what the feature story takes place in.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, for those who are interested in actually watching this film that you guys did, my question would be: one, how would you sum up the film? Like, how would you pitch it to somebody without giving anything away? What would you say that your summation of the film is?
I've used there's a term now called punchline short films, where it's a film you have to stick with it until you get to the punchline. But I think of it as like a twisted romantic comedy set in the world of horror slasher tropes.
Okay. Yep. Would you have to agree with that? Ian?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you
would have to agree.
He's like, absolutely not. We have a difference of opinion, right? Yeah. Right? And that's how bad movies wind up getting made eventually.
Exactly. Right.
And then I guess my only other question before we continue, like I said, we're going to go into more depth at the end of this podcast so that nobody who is interested in seeing it without the spoiler gets spoiled. My last question would be, how does one find it right now?
Yeah, Ian, you can tell them.
So right now the film's in the middle of its festival circuit. So it started kind of this past fall and is going to continue into the new year. Before you answer that, explain that. I wanted to mention the festivals. Like, where have you gone? And you've won some awards already. Not necessarily awards, but kind of getting into these festivals in itself is almost like an award, because they're very hard to get into. So we were lucky enough to get into one of the biggest film festivals and longest running film festivals in LA, which is awesome. Shriekfest in LA, which was also bi-coastal for its first year too. It was also in Orlando, so that was kind of a 2-for-1 sort of a thing. It's also been in up in Idaho at Idaho Horror Film Festival, which is kind of a cool, a little bit more intimate, but like cult film festival.
It's a new one.
Was really, really cool. Sacramento Horror, which is, again, a little bit smaller of a festival, but really, really cool cult, intimate vibe. And then just recently down at Horrible Imaginings in San Diego, at kind of like the spin-off specialized event for it called Ho Ho Horrible Imaginings, focusing on Christmas horror in particular. So,
okay, awesome. And that, when you mention Christmas, that's something that I want to get into later on.
Most
too.
definitely.
So, once again, I'll re-ask the question because I interrupted.
That's all right.
Where can one find this right now to watch?
Unfortunately, because it's in the middle of its festival circuit, there's a lot of like stipulations and regulations that they have and rules. Until the film's done with its festival run, it can't be online. So probably towards the end of this coming summer, we'll be done with its festival run, and the link will be made public online. So on our website, on YouTube, and
Instagram,
Vimeo, and all those kind of channels and whatnot. So
okay,
so,
and we'll plug that by the end of the episode as well. Because those who are listening are driving, and we'll tell them to pull over by the end.
Great.
I just assume everyone's driving when they listen to us.
That's all I listen to when I drive. So.
Yeah.
But no, I mean this podcast.
Oh, nice. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You know too much about me.
I've crashed many times.
Like, you did what?
Right. Silent Night. Oh God.
What do you guys know about Christmas horror? You brought up horror. You guys haven't been doing a million Christmas horror
no,
movies
not
on
at
this
all.
podcast.
We just did last month. We did Silent Night, Deadly Night, and its second sequel.
Yep.
I mean its first sequel. We have not touched upon 3, 4, or 5 in the franchise yet, but we did that, and then just to keep the holiday slasher kind of feel, we did New Year's Evil as well. So we've been kind of bogged down with some horror films, which seem to be our favorite anyway, though. Like they're just
they're nice. It's the hidden gems of I don't know, of the movies we love.
It's the hidden gems of the B movies.
It's where you find it, because it's what people want. It's what they like to see, and it's also easy to be poked at.
Absolutely. So, when you came to us and was like, "Oh, we'd love to come on and just shoot the shit, make fun of a movie," I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And I try as much as possible to let the guests pick, and this was your pick.
Yes.
Van Helsing. Why did you choose this?
So, first of all, sorry. But also, we like something like Silent Night, Deadly Night, some of these cultier films. We don't really subscribe ourselves to a lot of those. Like, I haven't even seen a lot of I stick to the classic horror films. And
I am trying to get them to this theater so hard. I talk to you about it all the time. I'm like, can we just do this piece of shit? Like, it doesn't matter. Nobody owns the rights. It's cool.
Yeah. But we love not just the Universal monsters, but we watch quality horror film, or at least I try. Some people are like, I love Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and I'm like, I haven't even seen Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Because why would I? I'm like, why would I? You know what I mean? Like the first one's so good, and it's like, I don't know.
Dream Master.
Oh yeah, I've seen Dream Warriors, the third one. Yeah,
Dream Masters after that.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
No thanks. But we love Frankenstein, The Wolfman. Bride of Frankenstein is one of my favorite movies of all time. We'll get to that, but
most definitely. The Universal horror movie monsters are, again, like one of the core reasons why we love movies, and one of the things that we kind of grew up on as kids and whatnot. And so to see them presented in a film like this, and then presented in a way that is so... How would you guys put it?
Well, I was gonna say it crushes all your dreams, hopes, and it's just everything that you have.
We just we wanted to drop some bombs on it, I guess.
Hell yeah, love it. So shall we?
Let's dive on in.
Right. So this movie was supposed to be another start to another Universal franchise.
I think this was actually the beginning.
Right. Mm-hmm. Just meaning, like, when I say another, is that people are pretty much probably familiar with what happened last year with The Mummy,
the Dark
with Tom
Universe.
Cruise. Yeah. and another failure for Universal Monsters.
Well, this was like, it even starts off in kind of the exact same manners as The Mummy, that whole reestablishment of the Dark Universe, because we, just like fun fact for the readers, we were going to do The Mummy, the new one with Tom Cruise, but we were like, this is too boring, which is really tough for us to call. There's been a handful, but that was one that we were like, oh no. Like we both fully watched it, got through it, and then we're like, what do we talk about? And this one, it even starts kind of the same way, to where like you have Universal, you have the logo going around the planet, and then it's like lightning strike, and like the logo goes black and white, and you're like, wow, spooky. And it like the first scenes that we get are black and white.
Which I argued that this movie probably would have been more accepting of it, or at least accepting of the poor CGI if the whole movie was in black and white as an homage.
Yeah, but even then, so they do a black and white scene, and we'll probably go back to it, but like the whole first scene of black and white, it happens, and then it's like, next scene, and you're like, finally, like it'll be like 150 years later, and then it's like 1 year later, and it's in color
within a
and
year,
it's in color, and that's the rest of the movie. I was so mad. I was like, nope, I don't subscribe to it. But it was so our first scene is, it's black and white, and it's a fight, as they all are.
I mean, I feel like that's what
I can't fully remember, but it was just a fight.
Is.
It was an homage to Bride of Frankenstein, where they had the beautiful windmill go up in flames, except nothing looks even remotely as good as that movie did, Bride of Frankenstein, 100 years ago.
Okay, here's the problem with this black and white thing, right? Is that it just looks like when they put like the first season of Walking Dead on black and white, where you're like, you didn't film it in black and white, and you can tell that all you did was desaturate the entire thing.
Well, that's a Frank Darabont thing, because Walking Dead, they made black and white, and then the movie The Mist was, they have a black and white version of that as well. He directed The Mist as well, and the black and white version of The Mist is better because of what you said. The CGI looks better. I don't know how this movie would have turned out black and white.
That one was the one that was done in
The Mist?
The Mist.
Like 2003.
2007.
2007?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
were you thinking of the original, the John Carpenter? That's such a good movie.
Yeah.
No,
I've only ever seen the John Carpenter.
That's The Fog. Yeah, that's The
Fog.
Yeah.
Well, tomato.
Yeah. Well, one's a great movie, one's...
Yeah.
Well, one is like dense, and one is like misty.
I might have seen both, but all I remember is everything built up to I don't think it was HBO. There was some TV show recently that I was like, looks neat, won't watch, because I knew it was going to be like so trope.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no thanks.
So, in this thing, Dr. Victor Frankenstein creates the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that Dracula gave him all his equipment, bought it for him. I don't know. Was basically Victor Frankenstein's sponsor. Like,
I mean, essentially.
Okay,
it's fun trying to watch you make sense of the plot.
Well, that's the problem with this movie is, and it's going to happen so much, is that like this is a movie that was basically like, hey, you guys like Universal Monsters? And you're like, fuck yeah. And they're like, good, because fuck all that.
Yeah.
It's just like everything that you know about it, where you're like, you know the rules. At this point, this is 2004. These movies have been out for 80 years at this point, and they go, yeah, you know all the rules. You've seen every single like version of Dracula and everything. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Why can't studio movies just like play it straightforward every once in a while? Like, why did everything have to be like a not period appropriate? Like, nothing looked like it should have. It's just like, why does the first Van Helsing movie have to be a twist on the genre that doesn't exist yet?
Well, it was supposed to be, this was just from reading trivia about it. It was supposed to be that the first movie, the first Van Helsing thing, the original idea was that an outlaw or a sheriff from the Wild Wild West was transported to Europe, and he had to, like, quote unquote, tame the situation of vampires.
I mean,
which is just
That's more than I think this movie
That's
explains.
something.
two
Yeah, that's
points away
something.
from Will Smith.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's true.
And then James Smith comes in, or
Yeah.
was it James
James
West?
West, yeah.
James West,
yeah.
James Smith. So it's established that Victor Frankenstein makes the Frankenstein monster, and then Igor's there, but he doesn't look anything like Igor. He looks like somebody who just basically got like a burn victim.
Yeah.
Smacked in the face with a fucking like.
With the taser stick.
Yeah.
No. I was gonna say just like a skillet.
Yeah.
Scale.
Like
Okay.
a cauterizer.
Yeah.
So while all this is going on, the village people, led by like a blonde Marilyn Manson Undertaker,
That's perfect description.
or like the Candyman from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
And
or,
he's
like-
there for 30 minutes.
right? Don't understand. What is his deal, guys? What is that guy's deal?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, don't ask me
That's,
the machinations of this movie.
He literally tries to kill him just so that he can put him in a grave?
Well, it's just like that's Riff Raff's
he's not-
way.
It's Riff Raff.
That's literally, yeah.
It was like, that's astounding. And then he kept going on.
I was only away for a moment, master. What I don't understand what that guy's deal is. He seems to be like, I don't know. Whenever the town wants to pitchfork somebody, he just shows up. Yep. I don't understand why he.
That was actually the influence for the original Pitchfork Festival.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
They're like, Romania, what up?
So I mean, they're basically like you said, redoing the whole Bride of Frankenstein part,
Right.
minus the bride.
Right.
Which probably would have been a decent addition to this entire
sure.
situation, right? Could have been something to, like, if Frankenstein was out of control, maybe control Frankenstein. I don't know.
But he wasn't. Okay, so establishment. We have Dr. Frankenstein, and he's like, I'm making a monster. And then we have Dracula there, like,
I love how
I funded it. Like, I'm trying to.
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom.
I was like, also, side note, Dracula's there, and he's like, I helped. Like,
He's like shake and bake.
I threw $30 at you, and then you see the entire town.
Everyone was crowdfunding
Like,
it. They were crowdfunding the monster.
Yeah, they're like, we all put in our torches, and we're gonna attack. And the only reason that we have an attack plan is because they're like, he grave robbed.
Yeah, let's
That's
burn down
it.
this
That
tower.
is literally
like
only
nobody can see your action.
Right.
Yeah. It was just a fist
The silence
forward.
worked. The
Yeah.
silence
no.
worked.
But that's essentially
what you
what
did.
it was. Even then,
Yeah.
that's their reasoning behind attacking Dr. Frankenstein and his tower was he grave robbed,
Right.
and we want to punish him.
Right, and this is weird too
Which
because
even then, like, if
what's
I stole an
established
arm,
later on
geez.
when Van Helsing comes to Transylvania is that like they're all pretty much complacent with like this is life.
Yeah.
Right? They're like so like why would they a year prior be like let's go storm the castle?
Right.
Like because the next year they're like this is what they do. They come out, they feed on one of us. Like Charlie got it last week, Barbara got it this week. It is what it is. They only feed. They do not multiply. We're good. Right? That's like their deal. Right?
Yeah, I don't mean to jump ahead of when the translation scene.
No, jump.
But there was like 500 people running around, like a ton of extras when the flying ladies came in. And like, you're right, one person died.
Yep.
Out of all 500, one person just died.
So basically, this scene sums up. Dracula is like, I don't need you, Victor Frankenstein. Which is like, yeah, you probably will.
Right.
Which he does, of course. Right. Bites Victor Frankenstein, and he's dead. And then Frankenstein's like, no, master, and takes him and
Frankenstein's monster.
I'm gonna call him
kidding.
Frankenstein
I
by
know,
the
I
end,
know.
or
I'm
just the monster.
I want to
but
be that
yeah.
idiot.
yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
his
Yeah, what are you,
monster.
Ghostface, correcting? Like, no, it's Jason Voorhees' mother.
His
Don't do that to
mother.
me. Don't do that to me. We don't have time to keep reiterating here. Okay, so the monster grabs Victor as body, and his body.
He's
I added
I gotta
apostrophe
run
as.
away, and he runs
Yeah.
away to a window.
And they go and they burn down the windmill. Now, they over-establish here as if we would not suspend believability and be like, how did that windmill catch on fire? They were like, it also has alcohol in it and things. I'm like, I don't need that.
The windmill is where the drunkards just really go to not drink at a bar.
Meanwhile, they focus on absinthe, right?
Yeah.
And then they're drinking absinthe later on.
When they fall through the floor.
Yeah, and you think it's important, but it's not.
It's just European. Like, they just wanted to add that part in.
Yeah, right? It's the Green Fairy.
I buy a windmill as just...
Don't let it touch your tongue.
I buy a windmill just being flammable anyway. Like, that's why I see your point of just, like, why do you need to add that in?
It's made of
Wind
wood.
plus
Just let it catch
fire.
fire.
I'm pretty sure
Right,
we're
it's
good here.
Good enough for me.
Wind, wood, and fire. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like Jarrett said, 1 year later,
we get color.
Universal invented color,
Right?
and which, like I said, it would have been great to just keep it a period piece, like do Mel Brooks style, make it an homage.
Well, usually a movie would have that big moment and then cut to the Van Helsing credit would come up. Nothing.
Yeah.
Just 1 year later, then a poster.
Wait, when did the Van Helsing credit?
Never happened.
There wasn't a title card.
No.
Nope.
You're right.
Yeah, there wasn't.
Holy hell.
Yeah, it was because they hadn't.
There wasn't to the end. It wasn't to the end credits that there was a title
was there?
card.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
there was.
Because they finally established who Van Helsing
After
was.
every single actor was appeared on their own little title card, then it said Van Helsing.
No.
Yes.
Oh man.
So this is a movie that I feel like thinks that it's like the second or third movie in a franchise.
Yeah. Yeah.
In which we've already seen him do things before, right? Yeah. And it decides that it wants to take us to Notre Dame, where Quasimodo lives.
But
no.
it's
not
Quasimodo.
There are some references, too.
Right? Because he's like, the bells! And I'm like, that's not your thing, dude.
Yeah,
Bells of Notre Dame.
Right?
And he never said it.
Yeah. So, basically, they have a fight.
Yeah.
But it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr.
Right.
Hyde.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But it's Mr. Hyde right now. And he looks like a really bad, skin-colored CGI version of the Hulk.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
even I don't think it was more of the Hulk. I think it was more of Wolverine hulked out because he's eating a cigar. And,
yeah, cigar.
Guys, when did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen come out?
I don't know, but I couldn't name a movie that was more similar to Van Helsing than
It's the
League of
exact
Extraordinary
same,
Gentlemen.
and they have Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with the exact same CGI.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right?
I want to say it was 2004 also.
Yeah, the same year.
Really?
Wrong. Yeah.
You think so? So when they fight, one, it's hard to understand half of the dialogue coming out of his mouth because they chose to give him a cigar.
Right.
Right? So he's
But he also just ate the cigar, so it probably burned a lot of his mouth.
2003.
So 2003 for Extraordinary Gentlemen. So the year before.
Right.
Yeah.
So that they went there and watched it and was like, we got to do better.
Right. Nope.
This is what they came up with.
Or they loved it and were like, let's do the exact same thing.
Right? People seem to have accepted that one, right? I mean, it didn't ruin Sean Connery's career or anything. Right?
Yeah, has he done a movie since then? The
That's
answer's
where
no,
he
right?
retired.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, okay.
That was it.
That was his welcome to Mooseport, like Gene Hackman. He's just done.
So, from here, they have this fight. I mean, there is so much rope swinging in this movie.
Yeah.
It's like Shia LaBeouf in Indy 4.
Well, you know what it is?
Yes.
It's just a video game, and Mr. Hyde is a boss in the video game.
Yes, it looks like a video game.
Yeah, and then he hits the bell, and that's the boss's weakness. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's the boss's weakness, and so that opens him up to be attacked, and it's just this is a video game. We're watching a video game already in 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have grappling hooks, and you have your your hand cranked saw blades.
Yeah. Well, what's that phrase when stuff is old but new?
Steampunk?
Steampunk, correct, yeah.
We put up with a lot of steampunk bullshit on this podcast.
Yeah, it's the steampunkness of the insistence on that. Oh my god, I hate it so much.
Yeah.
Well, this movie actually, for their video game things, they had video game ports for the Xbox, for the PlayStation.
For this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they also, so we have Xbox, PlayStation, and Game Boy Advanced.
Oh.
So that's kind of different in what they were
trying to get forward.
Yeah. I don't know how they did the other two, but I could see how they did Advance.
I mean, it's the same thing. I'm
pretty scrolling.
I'm almost positive they had action figures. I don't remember them, but
I mean,
did
they planned the film to be a massive, huge, again, like beginning of a whole universe. Before the cinematic universes were kind of a thing.
And
really,
that's the problem here is that like they thought just like Batman and Robin and Wild Wild West, they thought franchise and they thought what's it called? Action figures and merchandise before they thought story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's the thing is they wanted to put too much into one thing to make that franchise and that story where they should have scaled back a little bit.
Well, yeah, why give us everything in the first movie? Why not show us something and then be like, well, I want more of that?
Like, in the next movie, you'll get Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Is what they should have done.
Yeah, this should have been just him versus Dracula.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, this felt like the third movie in like a trilogy or something.
Like where they all were in it.
Yeah. Where like it should have been Van Helsing versus Wolfman, Van Helsing versus the Mummy, like whatever,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, would have been
and
awesome.
then built it up to this whole thing of this has been Dracula's plot since the beginning is to have him interact with all these creatures and right?
Yeah.
I mean, even that would have been very just colluded. I mean, not
convoluted.
Convoluted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is the perfect word for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this fight ends with him harpooning Dr. Jekyll, or Mr. Hyde, in the chest, and then yanking him off of the Church of Notre Dame.
Yeah, yanking him off in the Church of Notre Dame.
And then he proceeds to change back into Dr. Jekyll before falling to his death?
As he's falling, just before he hits the ground, and then the townspeople come in and go, murderer, because they've seen a human being has been killed.
Right? But, like, if he had just stayed as Hyde, I think he would have survived the fall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's true, yeah.
Like, what?
Well, the Hulk would have, so.
Yeah.
It's good enough for me.
Oh, absolutely. So, now this movie decides that it wants to become James Bond. Because he goes into the Vatican, right? Van Helsing does, and he proceeds to go into confession, right? And then confession booth then transforms into like a hidden door chamber that leads down, right? And then you're confronted by a cardinal who basically is like M, right? Giving him his next mission to do, and be like, "You've never fought something like this before, the evil Count Dracula," right? And you're just like,
"Oh my god!" And the way they pronounce
just say Dracula,
yeah, please,
right? Even the title card on here for his actual is Count Vladislaus Dracula.
Well, and just the way that the actor says it is just ooh.
This guy, oh my god, this guy is chewing so much scenery in this movie.
On top of having the hair that he does.
hair, earrings. He is ballet dancing with himself in this movie. He likes to submerge himself into ice for some reason.
Well, I think the ice is a transportation method, but we'll get into that later.
Sure. And then, so they give him his mission. They say, hey, you've got to find the Valerius, which is like the family that basically has been cursed. Oh, God, I'm going to try to get through this, right?
I know.
Right?
This is a family that has been cursed to basically fight Dracula throughout the course of time, right? And basically, with every single one of them that dies, their souls are trapped in some sort of limbo until someone of the family does off Dracula.
Yep. And then they all, are released.
But no one ever does.
Right. Yeah, she doesn't by the end of the movie either.
Right.
She just dies.
A weird plot point.
All you got to do is help.
Yeah,
like, just
essentially.
lend a hand.
Sure.
Right? So, then Van Helsing goes into the Q lab.
Right.
and sees all the gadgets, gadgets and gizmos.
Oh, the gadgets.
The gadgets and gazmos. That's what I was going to say. That the Vatican's cooking up for the next army of the undead.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so... You're just like, what? Like,
and at how long are we into the movie in this? You know, it's like you're already exhausted. It's like
You're 10 minutes.
This
Yeah,
makes
we're 10
no
minutes in.
sense, and it's like, oh my god.
yeah, you're like 10 minutes in. That's it.
Well, everything that's done in this movie is a very universal approach to it, because Universal has their like rock solid ways of doing movies, especially like the extreme movies, to where they like to establish, but they establish like hardcore, and then like you have the next scene that they do, and it's like the build up, and the build up's always like hardcore. Like everything that Universal does is this most like, they want you to know that everything in this scene matters 100%, and you're like, you don't have to do that,
Right.
Because even then in this next scene, when you're getting like we'll call it the James Bond equivalent of Q and
Yeah, he's
James.
giving him gadgets and gizmos, showing him the Gatling
He's
gun,
like,
its crossbow.
Well, he picks up like this, like
The
this-
bomb?
the bomb thing, and
The
he's
light
like,
bomb
I don't know
from
what this will
Blade?
do. Yeah,
It's
He's-
the light bomb from Blade, guys.
He's like,
come on.
I don't know what'll happen, but it like points out a lot of extreme light. Might come in like a handy, and throws it in a bag, and you're like, well, they're vampires, so
Okay,
they don't like light.
That shit shouldn't work. If sunlight can't work if the clouds are meanwhile, clouds take a big part in this movie as a secondary character.
Oh boy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if the vampire like
but
queens,
this bomb can go through walls, apparently.
anything, yeah, around
This bomb
corners.
was set off in a door, like past a door in a like 15 by 10 room, let's say. But it somehow manages to light up
through the whole ballroom,
an entire castle.
Right. Well, it's because we established a scene in which we had hundreds of vampires, and then was like, we can't afford
No
that
one could get him out unless they're undead.
Yeah. So, but then he decides, I guess for comedic relief, that the friar is going to join him on this adventure instead of just give him his gadgets.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the friar has the know-how of the gadgets, and the friar likes to be there.
Guys, I have a question.
Was the friar a
No.
virgin? Yeah, he was. He was.
Right? And he used his position of heroics to get some ass.
Get it! That friar's hole is loose now.
Oh, God.
Sorry. He loosened a hole.
No longer a man of the cloth, because he was able to put it in something else.
Man that came on the cloth.
Yeah, right. So, no, my question was, jeez.
No, he wasn't attractive.
No,
you know.
it's not that either. It's, okay, the Vatican seems to know everything there is about these monsters, right? Yet, Van Helsing doesn't even seem to know where to shoot the next villains, like, at all, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like they're like, in the heart, asshole. You know, and he's like, oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Like he doesn't know. Like and even in the next scene where he's like, hey, holy water, and he's like, oh okay, you know, like he doesn't seem to know what he's up against at any time.
Well, it's like that whole thing of like, oh, he's really good, but he doesn't know, like, execution.
That works when your lead actor isn't Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
trying to portray himself as like a badass.
Right,
You know? Like he's not like a
yeah.
buffoon. They don't portray him like that. I mean, that would have been a take on the film, but that's not what they do at all. He doesn't know what he's doing, but the film doesn't know that doesn't
Right.
sound like that.
And they make him out to be infamous already.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, well, infamous for what? Just normal bounty hunting?
His
Well,
hair.
His hair.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
His hair, that is definitely something like a really well-off 17-year-old from the Midwest would do.
Yes.
Like,
Hello.
his hair just looks like a beautiful, like, I just stepped off from the beach.
Well, I mean,
Like-
I feel like all the characters in this film very much have like that vibe.
They're
and it's
way
just
too
like-
pretty.
It's just like
Nah,
it's like the
yeah.
whole. But I mean, so many action movies have like the overly sexualized like image for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just like it's so. I guess that's some people's taste, but it's just so obnoxious, especially like. Again, when you look at what these films were based on and stuff, and what they were. It's just
just the next fight sequence where she lands in his crotch face.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What?
I know.
Well, that's okay. So our entire next fight sequence is.
Meanwhile, there's something we skipped. Her brother.
Her brother
Kinda basically they were trying to capture a werewolf,
which was again convoluted. Like, what was their plan?
I don't know.
Yeah, that
it was
weird.
Like drop him in a hole and then have that hole have a cage in it, and let's bring that cage up into the sky
and
then shoot it.
Yeah.
But the werewolf bleeds green goo for some reason.
So, in justifying their actions for this, I think their idea was. Because they touch on it later, they say that Dracula has always had a werewolf sidekick that he could tame. And so their idea is...
So man's best friend?
Yeah.
It's so insulting.
But their idea...
Right.
But the whole thing that comes back to it is, spoiler for the ending...
Wait, don't do it. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
I was like, do I do it or not? I was like, oh no.
Do it.
Only a werewolf can destroy... the head vampire.
Right.
So, with the what's his name?
So your best
main
friend
vampire,
all along was your worst enemy.
But like with the main vampire, if he creates and tames, right? But if he creates and tames that vampire, then he is in control of that quote unquote demise.
Of the werewolf?
The vampire. Yeah, the vampire creates the werewolf.
If he tames the werewolf.
Exactly. If he gets that control over it. So, he does that.
Are you lost yet, folks?
Yeah.
Folks
a little bit. I'm lost to myself. But if he controls the werewolf, then he has some idea of how to not be killed. Because they even say in the movie, they're like, oh, he's got control over him. There needs to be a way to figure out how to let him. Whatever.
Stop. We're just stopping. I'm halting the show right here, right now. Your plan, if you know that the only way you can die is by the hand of a werewolf, would your plan not be to then wipe out all werewolves instead of whatever the fuck this movie's plot is?
Yeah, like why? That would have been if they were gonna go that way, it would have been cool if Count Vladislav Dracula. Hired Hugh Jackman to kill all of the werewolves and for him.
That would have been good.
That would have been a plot.
Or the fact that maybe secretly Van Helsing knows he's always been a werewolf, so he is the last one.
Well, see, that would have been cool,
right?
That would have been cool. Yeah.
I thought Van Helsing was going to be a vampire or a werewolf. Like he had the ring that was connected to it.
Yeah.
Like
threads. They're called threads, and they're all left dangling in this movie. So
red herrings, and they're all blue.
Speaking of red hair, the next scene, I love this chick. She's gorgeous. I do. Whatever. Don't roll your eyes.
He would.
Of course, I love them redheads.
No, you just love them with women parts.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Shame.
Sorry, Ed Sheeran.
Shame. No, he's not a redhead to be meddled with.
Oh. So
he's a frog.
So now Van Helsing has showed up in Transylvania with the friar, and this is where he meets Anna, who is now, because her brother just fell over a cliff, right? With no confirmation, by the way. She's just immediately got a tear, like, dead.
Gone.
Right? Battling the werewolf. So now she's the last of the Valerius. And immediately she's over-sexualized, right? Everybody else is poor peasants, like to the extreme, right? Like dirt all over them, like ratty clothes. She steps in. She's got a bustier. She's got like her breasts are pretty much exposed. And
she's wearing pants, which I was like, don't think pants were a thing for women at this time.
I mean, not unless you're a strong, independent woman from the 1400s. But immediately she's introduced in this scene as like
it was 1887.
That's right,
88.
Yeah,
one of those two.
I was thinking 1400s because they mentioned that for Dracula. Yeah. Sorry,
no, it was 1880 something.
But the camera shows her like she's straddling the camera, basically, right? It's like the camera is a low shot on this platform, and her feet are basically the only thing in shot. And you're just like, well, you're already over-sexualizing her, right? Meanwhile, he was like licking his lips basically at her photograph, right? Everybody else was like old stoic, like take the photo, like 1800s photos. Hers was like seductive,
right?
And just I was like, no, hers would be creepy and like weird hair too, because this is like Civil War times, basically, right? Everybody in Civil War times looked like they already were a ghost.
Right.
So, and so immediately they're just attacked.
Yeah.
Right? It's attack time.
Well, right after the line of Kate Beckinsale saying to Van Helsing, I don't need your help. We don't need your help. And then 2 seconds later, we do really need your help.
Right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
because they're attacking in the daytime, and that's totally unheard of.
Right.
Right.
Because clouds.
Yeah.
Because that's what it turns out to be.
Mm-hmm.
Clouds, when they cover the sun or the moon, things just don't happen the way that you know them to be in any previous monster movie, apparently.
Yeah.
Which has got to be really, like, it's got to be really annoying. Like, you, as a vampire, if the clouds were over the sun, I don't think you would take the risk. Right? Because the clouds can move at any moment. And what if you're nowhere near coverage?
Yeah, and this was like a calculated attack.
Right.
It's like it could have gone wrong at any time.
Absolutely. Right? And then when it comes to the wolf later on, I'm pretty sure you don't like change in, change out, change in, change out all night long as the moon's like, it's going to be a cloudy night. Better not go out tonight. Like it's not. No, that's not how this thing works. I'm pretty sure when it's a full moon out, your wolf body just I couldn't even get through wolf body. Your wolf body just knows, right? It's like, now we're wolf tonight, right? Like at least for the next 2-3 nights, that's how full moons work, right?
Huh.
I'm a big I'm a big werewolf guy, as Ian knows, and the way they show the transformation in this movie was not normal. I mean, obviously, usually you just transform it, whereas like in this movie, they would just like tear their skin off to reveal that there was a wolf under their
which
human
is what
skin.
what the director really wanted. That's like the first bit of trivia.
The beast coming from within is like what he wanted it to be portrayed as, but at the same time, like, does that mean like their skin comes back anew?
Yeah.
Like, is that a regimen I can get in on? Because I would love to tear all this skin off. And
He's
just
basically
be
regenerating skin like Wolverine would.
Right.
Right.
But in like the second time you see the werewolf as well, he doesn't rip his skin off. Like the werewolfness comes from underneath, which is a bit like, though you deviated in that one instance.
Yeah.
Like you did something different.
But what happens when, like you said, there's a cloud covering, and he's like, okay, I'm going to be a werewolf, rips off his skin, and then the moon hits him, and he's like, hold up, let me put this skin back on.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't make any sense.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm back. Sorry. Yeah. So, in this moment, they have a fight between the 3 of Dracula's brides.
Yeah.
Right? And they're kind of my favorite part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It just... I like their design. It's creepy. I would rather see a movie where it was like Van Helsing versus them as like a solo movie too, because I like their characters have more development, more establishment of like what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish in this movie than I think any of the other characters. Like I can't figure out what Dracula really wants to do. I'm like, they serve Dracula and they want to make babies.
Right.
It's really the whole baby thing we're going to get to, because that doesn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever, right? That's not how vampires work.
Yeah, and the brides, you completely might disagree with this, but I actually liked when they would transform from what they were into like the normal women. I actually thought that CGI looked pretty good.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
It wasn't horrible.
I think it was weird when the girl that does get killed in this scene, she like her flowy robes also are like skin-like in them. I was like, oh, that's
I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah, right. Like, because she changed from like skin to the robes, and I was like, you're changing from gross to hot, but it's still not hot. Like, so I didn't quite know what to do about that one. So in this moment, Van Helsing, I guess, dips his crossbow.
The entire thing.
Right? Just dips it. So I guess it fills up with water. So now it's like
the coating. Like,
yeah.
It coats it.
Yeah.
So everything that like comes out of his crossbow like shoots out like holy water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, is he making like the world's first super soaker?
Yeah, that's
like,
what it looked like. Right? That's exactly what it looked like.
So, he kills one of the 3 brides. Mm-hmm. And then the next scene has Frankenstein just coming out of a coffin of ice. I mean, not Frankenstein. Sorry, Dracula coming out of a coffin of ice, just screaming like "Ah!"
literally.
To go back, how does he kill one of the wives again? It's just like the least subtle way.
The crap
a million
out of her,
times.
and she like lands on a cathedral. I know. Don't shame me.
Jarrett's got the hiccups. I'm just gonna say it because.
But it's
not the audio. It's not your phone. It's not your car, folks. He's just got the hiccups.
As I'm gonna call for the
hiccups.
As the blonde lady, the bad one, we'll call her.
Yeah,
that was it. He dips his crossbow into the holy water. And as she's flying towards him, he like shoots her, and she gets like impaled against the top of the cathedral. It's all hiccups. It's so bad. It's so bad. And she dies.
Yeah, that's it.
It is done.
Now, Dracula, like I said, screams out of ice. He just like I don't know. He just lives his life in ice. He sleeps in ice.
You see the ice melting, and he's like, ah!
Right? It just comes up like he's stiff as a board, and just comes up like, yeah! Right? I guess he could feel the one chick's pain, right?
Yeah.
And then proceeds to walk on the ceiling because everybody seems to be Spider-Man in this movie.
Yeah, everybody can walk on the ceiling.
The brother, that's the werewolf, walks on a ceiling before he's a wolf.
Right.
Dracula's walking on the ceiling. They're upside down. And he's pissed off at them because they didn't kill the last Valerius, right? Which is Anna.
Well, it also, like, based on context clues, it seems like they weren't actually supposed to kill her. They weren't supposed to attack. But they did it anyway?
I don't understand that.
Did anyone else... I wasn't the only person that read that, right?
No, yeah.
Like, he was like, you shouldn't have done it, but, like, you tried.
Yeah. Like, doesn't understand, doesn't make sense. But this is where it's established that Dracula has, like, Mad Max-type minions.
Yes.
Oh, so these minions are supposed to be, like, a German folklore.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Which okay, so
in a movie full of monsters and stuff already, like, I didn't need this. How about Creature from the Black Lagoon instead?
So the year that this came out,
Invisible Man.
The year that this came out, it was 2004, and I had lived in Missouri at the time, but my family took a vacation out to California, and we were like, don't do Disney, let's go to Universal. It's more adult, air quotes.
Oh, boy.
Which, yeah. We didn't know at the time that it was 18 rides, if that. Probably closer to 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's less than 18.
It wasn't a fun time. But one thing they had at the time was the Van Helsing's like scary tour, and this was like legitimately.
It's now the Walking Dead maze.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this was in January, March, April, May or June. This was actually this was in June. So this is the June time that we went, June of 2014, because this is when this would have came out, and I remember
2004.
2004. Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, shit. No, I forgot what ages I was. I was not born in 2000. I was born in 90. But, yes, 2004, I was 13, going on 14. And I remember going through this maze, and the only thing I can remember is the
minions.
Like the people that are shorter. Because midgets is bad now,
little
right?
People.
Little
it's
people,
fine.
yeah. So there were actual little people employed to walk around and scare you.
Well, okay.
And that was
They still are.
All
Like when
I
they do for
remembered-
Chucky and stuff like that. Yeah.
But that was all I remembered about this show. I remember a lot of electricity and boxes, and you're supposed to go through, and there were multiple exits in case you got too scared. Like, that's all I remember from this. But I do know that those people were there.
Okay.
The German...
all right.
The German folklore of... little people.
So, it's established that Anna's brother did not die over the cliff.
Yeah,
he has became the new werewolf. He was bitten. So, and he is in control via Dracula. So, he decides to reverse engineer the entire Victor Frankenstein machine, puts the Wolfman in it.
Yeah.
And that is so that he can breathe life into these pods of vampire bat babies.
Dude, my body language right now is so bad. Every time you say a plot point, I just get so upset.
Right. Because, okay, guys. All right, here it is. Why the hell would vampires make babies when you can just bite somebody and become a vampire?
Mind you,
like what he did during the masquerade.
Right, everybody there was already a goddamn vampire. You have your whole army.
Yeah.
Why do you need these baby bat gargoyle things? Because that's the whole plot of the movie, is that he needed Victor Frankenstein's life-giving machine in order to give these baby undead bats, because basically undead creatures can't make living things.
But
they can make the bodies for them, apparently.
Would you rather bite people or fuck to create? Let's be real. We're all going for the bone.
But it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right? Because basically they're saying we as undead creatures can biologically make something, but they won't be alive.
Yeah.
Why would that be the biological purpose of a creature?
But it's just weird to where it's you have to have sex with one other person to create the idea of something, but then you also need Frankenstein and all that electricity to make it come to life.
Yeah.
That's so much work.
That's a lot of work.
Just bite a few hundred people. Jesus Christ.
Right? Because they're going to follow you. You're the head vampire, right?
Yeah.
There's your army. For whatever purpose.
These kids are just going to be shitty teenager vampires eventually.
Right? Also, it's if you need humans to feed, you're basically it's a supply and demand situation. And you're creating a whole bunch of babies. You're not going to have enough humans to feed off of in 20 years.
But also, they're in a really bad area to be feeding off people.
Yeah.
You want to feed off people?
There's
Here's
20
a town
people
of
in that
500, if
tops.
that. You just birthed 2,000 of you.
Yeah.
Slim pickings.
So that's his scheme, right? Meanwhile, we have a little establishing scenes of more of Van Helsing kind of fighting with Anna. Anna wants to go off and kill Dracula on his own. He gasses her at one point.
He's sorry.
Yeah, right? Because he doesn't want her to go off and fight him alone.
Yeah.
And then they actually bring the little babies to life using her werewolf brother. And then they go out into the town. And this is where they don't really establish that, because Dracula says this weird thing that made me go, what? He goes, beg the devil that this time they stay alive. I'm like, you've just been doing this shit? Mm-hmm. And every time
trial and error,
right?
Jeez.
And every time the little baby gargoyle dragons or whatever get to the town, and then they're oh, and explode, because that's what they do. They explode.
Yeah,
in little green piles of goo.
Well, it gets to the point to where it's it seems like they're all doing fine, and then they just start blowing up to where it's there was a flaw in the system, they didn't get enough electricity to really jump start their will to live.
I don't know. This is the exact point in the movie that the first time I saw this movie was not in theaters. I never saw it in theaters. I was told not to.
I saw it at a drive-in for the first time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Long in the day.
What was the other movie on the drive-in?
I don't know.
This again? Did they just play this again?
Right.
They were like, and to make you feel real bad about this purchase.
I think it was Da Vinci Code.
Oh.
Oh man.
I mean, I could see it.
It was rough.
Together.
It was one of those like Dust Till Dawn marathons too. So but I do know. I think The Descent was the last one.
Oh, well,
that was really.
That's
good.
a great movie. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, this is usually where I fall asleep in the movie, and then I wake up halfway through the third act when like stuff. Like,
which third act? The first third act or the second third act?
Well, this is
because we're about to get to the first third act right now.
That's true.
So basically, Friar Tuck and Van Helsing and Anna.
It's Faramir from
Lord of the Rings.
From Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Oh, you fucking nerds.
Yeah, no, it's the best part of Fellowship of the Ring is Faramir. Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea.
He doesn't make it through the first movie.
Oh, spoilers! God, we said all spoilers at the end of this episode.
Oh, sorry. I'll say it again then at the end.
So basically, they get into Victor Frankenstein's castle, and they're trying to stop everything that's happening, but it already happens around them.
Yeah.
So, this is where I feel like it's first third act. Like if I was like, oh, the movie's already done, because like Friar Tuck's over here doing one thing, Anna's doing another. There's like minions going out destroying the whole town.
Well, yeah,
and that's usually a third act kind of thing where it's like the bad guy got to do what he planned to do, and now it's like we've got to stop them before they destroy the town kind of thing, right?
It's the Return of the Jedi formula where we're cross-cutting between three different things happening. You're like, this is the end of the movie.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great example.
Yeah.
Only ever usurped by Phantom Menace and 4 crosscuts.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
One crosscut too much, Jar Jar. Basically, this is where it gets confusing because, like, Dracula shows up and then he tries to give Van Helsing a backstory, like, full of, like, dialogue exposition that I'm not quite. He's like, don't you want to know your past,
your history,
right?
yeah.
And you're like, I would, but you're not going to explain it, are you? You're going to wait to the end. And they're like, yes, and then we won't tell you then either because we didn't write it. You know, because like that's what happens basically. Can anybody else take the reins on this one? Can anybody explain what is going on?
Doesn't he essentially,
he knows him.
Yeah, he's essentially like using his, he's like, I have the knowledge of your past or whatever, and uses it as like a bargaining chip or whatever.
Right.
And it just, again, is something that's just, you think, oh, it's going to be paid off later, and then it just doesn't.
Maybe we would have gotten it in the sequel.
Well, okay, so basically he's like, you don't remember me, do you? You know,
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't know what this accent is, but I'm digging it.
You're the most interesting man in the world.
You know, I don't always drink. But yeah, he's like, you don't remember me, right? And he's like, no, should I? And he's like, yeah, I'm Dracula. And he's like, yeah, I know. They fucking told me that at the Vatican.
Yeah.
What's the deal here?
I'm here to kill you.
Yeah. I'm here to kill you. That's the deal. Oh, this is a scene where he stabs him in the heart with a silver stake, and it does nothing, right? Second time that stabbing him in the heart has done nothing in this movie, right? So this is another thing of, like, forget all the rules.
Yeah.
So, but there has been movies where stabbing him might not work, but it always has usually ended up being sunlight, right?
Right.
Not this movie. Nah. Sunlight doesn't even happen in this movie, I feel like. This whole movie is just on a blue filter.
Yep, blue filter.
The whole
exactly.
movie is a blue filter.
Yep.
Right? So the little baby things die because that wasn't enough energy to keep them alive? Anybody?
Again, this is where I wake up. No, so this is where I wake up and I just see all this happening and I think I didn't miss anything that was important. Because it just, that plot point never paid off anyway.
Well, what about when Van Helsing like holds a cross up to Dracula and he grabs it and it's like, nah! And then he's like, oh, I'm
it
good.
Like burns him, but the cross melts. Like nothing really seems to work.
Yeah. It's like, again, you have a really good point about it being like the third film of a trilogy where it's just like we think all of these tropes from a genre that was created by Universal would work, and then they just shit on them.
Yeah.
To just be like, look how different this is, and it's like, well, it sucks. This movie sucks.
Yeah, they're just trying to be edgy and different,
but,
and like
but nobody.
And
Underworld. yeah, it's true. Kate Beckinsale was shooting Underworld while Hugh Jackman was shooting X2 or whatever.
X2,
They were just like
yeah.
both coming from the sets of those movies to make this piece of shit.
So, this is where the friar is in the town, and he saves a girl.
It's a
from the
sexy
minions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's all dirty, and
She's
he
like,
saves
"What can
her, and he's
anything
like,
I
"What
can do for you?" And he whispers in her ear and propositions her for sex, basically,
Right.
which she wholeheartedly agrees to without a he basically uses his
And
hero.
her makeup changes, and she's like, "Whoa," and she fucks him.
Yeah. What was the? What was that? Oh, is that like the clouds opening like majestically? Okay.
Because she was like, I thought you. She's like,
right.
I thought you holy folk couldn't do that.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
was like, I am not a holy folk. I'm just one in training.
I've been a man of the
so-"
sock for years.
Yeah.
that was the joke I was looking for earlier.
Man of a sock.
And so as this happening, Van Helsing and Anna decide to go have a drink in the remains of the windmill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they fall through the hole, right? And this is where they find Frankenstein's monster,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? He's been there, which also makes me go like, he's just been there, and you're meaning to tell me that nobody's found him?
Yeah.
Like the past
he's
year,
there
nobody's
because he needs to be there. For
nobody's
the story.
looked for him. Nobody's like, you mean to tell me that Frankenstein's monster is the thing that Dracula needs the most, and they didn't bother to look after like the fire was done burning from the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they find him, and this is where Frankenstein's face just falls off.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
He's
open.
like, let me just. Click.
God, sorry. It's so embarrassing when this happens. Hold on. Don't look. Like, his face literally falls off, and you see his, like, electrode brain.
Like
Yeah.
weird,
Because-
terrible again CGI, like skull, brain, whatever thing.
Because he somehow is constantly flowing with electricity.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay, guys. What is Frankenstein's monster? When you really think about it,
An oversized man who was dug up and got put electricity into to live.
and
Seven oversized
he's
men.
right. He's an oversized man
Yes,
that's brought back to life.
correct.
That's about it,
That's
right?
all it should
That's
be.
it,
Yeah.
right? Like basically, electricity was used to bring him back to life. That doesn't mean that he just holds electricity like he's Electro from Spider-Man. Like,
I didn't even think about that.
right? Like
so bad.
you just don't walk around being like, I'm statically charged.
Yes.
Like, you're just a man again, right? So when your skull falls apart, you just die.
You just die. Yeah.
Like, what?
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe this movie was just trying to also tap into the old thing of the monster movie, be an action movie, be a horror movie. Obviously, it fails at both, and then also introduce superhero stuff too. You know, it was trying to get the jump on Marvel.
Meanwhile, Frankenstein is the biggest overactor in this entire movie.
Yeah.
He's like, kill me!
A movie filled
He's, like,
with overacting.
Well, I was gonna say, wait, was
Well,
Dracula too?
But his only knowledge
singing
is the
opera.
Holy Bible. So
Huh? What? I'm sorry.
His only knowledge is the Holy Bible. Because they pick it up and they're like, this has been his reading.
That's right. Because later on, he's like, I walk through the shadow of death! Ah!
Yeah.
He's just constantly just overacting, singing, oh, it's so stupid, right?
Yeah.
It's almost as if you watched De Niro in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and was like, oh shit, I gotta top this.
and then the other guy watched Coppola's Dracula, Gary Oldman, and Dracula's like, I gotta top this shit. Yeah. Well, that's the problem with the movie in general. I don't mean to sum it up right now. I'm not obviously, but
Sure.
everything had to be more.
Yeah.
And every once in a while we'll feel like an idea for a plot point, and I want to be specific. You mean if you dropped all the other plot points and then added our idea, that would be good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then, so we get this whole idea. Everyone's added in. We have our general kind of idea of what is going to happen.
Right.
To where it's like Frankenstein is the key to resurrecting / creating life. And then we also have everyone else that's there to stop him.
Right. So
And
basically,
then-
they drug Frankenstein and
They're
for
like,
some
let's
reason
plan an
shackle
escape
him.
route. Like,
Right.
let's get back to the Vatican. The Vatican will protect us. They try. Not fails. Like,
Well, they basically they know that they're going to be followed and chased by the
Yeah.
brides of Dracula. So they do a fake out, right? Where like and this is weird too, like you had 2 carriages to begin with? Like it's just, okay. And then how did you know that they were going to get you? Like, you were both basically side by side.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't see 2 carriages.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for this
and
trope. I love this trope.
One took a bridge that was going to completely not make it across a ravine, and the other one was like, we made it.
It was extremely... Okay, here's where the movie, a lot of times, gets extremely convenient. Like, if it's not this, where it's like... almost as if it's like he knows. He's like, yeah, I know this ravine's coming up, and then it's going to fall down, and they're definitely going to chase after this carriage, and there's a bomb inside with, like, spikes. Because what does she say? Steaks!
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that's very specific that you thought this would go down that way. It's the same thing as, like, later on in the movie. Every single time somebody's swinging on a rope or something, they happen to crash through the window that somebody else is doing a fight scene in.
Yeah.
Like... This castle's huge, and you just always happen to be like, smash through window. Oh, what's up, guys? Right? It just happens too much. So, yeah, they do a fake out. They were in the opposite carriage. And then, how does she get kidnapped? How does Anna get kidnapped?
She gets carried off.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, just like grab
She's
him.
like comforting her brother, and the guy's like, hey, why are you doing that? And then she's, whoop,
Okay.
she gone. That's more or less the same.
That's
but
right,
that's
because-
about the same.
oh, 'cause-
really. Nah.
Because the werewolf shows up. I fucking forgot about the werewolf. The werewolf showed
her
up
brother
in that chase
werewolf,
scene. The other
flaming
carriage was on
carriages,
fire.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
This
All right.
entire movie, it's like just 1,000 set pieces, and that's
Yes.
all they gave a shit about. And it's like,
Okay, so while one carriage fell to like the bottom of a ravine, and it revealed that nobody was inside it, and Van Helsing is just riding the 6 horses that were carrying it, they then start drawing their attention over to the other carriage, which does have Frankenstein, and now everybody's on that said carriage. Somehow it catches on fire, and Frankenstein gets loose of his shackles and is like, "I'll save you," and like. Then a werewolf, her brother, shows up because he was tasked by Dracula to hunt them down too. And this is where Van Helsing shoots him with a silver bullet and ends his life.
Right.
And then, like Jarrett said, she comes to console him. And immediately, because she was accepting of his, like, she's like, yeah, he can't be brought back. It's too late. And then immediately, like, you killed him!
Yeah.
And it's like, well, pick a side on this.
Yeah.
And then they kidnap her, and basically are like, you want to ever see her again, you come to the ballroom, and where were they,
Yeah.
Belgium or something?
It
Or-
was, ooh.
I don't know, some of the B,
No one,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
okay. Budapest.
Yeah, Budapest.
okay, yeah.
I was going to say Belarus.
Shit, that came out of nowhere. But
Budapest.
it was Budapest.
Yeah, and now they're in this vampire masquerade ball, right? Which negates the whole baby thing.
For our second, third act.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, you don't, like, you go into it, you're like, oh, it's a masquerade ball, because Van Helsing was like, I want to meet in somewhere public, I want to make sure
This
everyone's
does
around,
feel like it would be the
blah,
third
blah,
act
blah, blah,
now.
blah, and then they get there, and you see Dracula dancing with
Anna.
and they go into a mirror, and he's like, oh, and she's like, oh, you have no reflection, but then, like, no one else around them
Right.
does either. Like, even clothing, which I was like, I didn't know clothing could be, like, infected by vampire
Whoa.
things.
I've never thought about that.
right.
Yeah, clothing
In
should
any
still be
vampire
there.
movie,
No,
I've never thought
clothing-
about that.
Clothing, you don't have to buy your clothing to
Vamp
make a
Clothes
vampire.
by
That's the thing.
Dracula.
But, no one is in that
It
mirror.
would have been a merchandising thing that
Yeah.
came after this had it been.
Right?
But, like, no one's there in the mirror, and for a second you're like, that's stupid, they forgot about that. But then it comes to reveal that Dracula has entire control over Budapest and all their people.
Yeah, all of Budapest.
All of it.
Yeah.
Right. So Van Helsing decides to do a trapeze act to swing down. Like I said, everybody's on ropes on this movie. Everybody swings on ropes. Yeah. Which is like, could you not have thought of something that's more cost-effective for you? Like, all of this has to be CGI, and it's really bad CGI, all this rope stuff.
Oh, I thought you meant for them. I was like, I'm pretty sure rope is cheap for him, but all right, sure.
And then, so, meanwhile, they locked Frankenstein up in a tomb in the cemetery close by.
But because he controls all the undead...
They are also in the
Van
cemetery.
Helsing goes... You'd have to be an undead to open up that grave.
Right? And I was like, oh shit, zombies in this movie now? Like,
yeah, same. But then it all
just
just turns out to be vampires.
It turned out to be some vampires that weren't invited to the ball.
Yeah.
And were still outside. Right? So they get Igor to help them. And they get Frankenstein and bring him into the ballroom. They're like, look what we got! We don't need the girl anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? And he saves... Van Helsing swings in, saves Anna, sorry. I'm already creating new names for her. And then, I don't know, they're being chased by all the vampires, and then Friar Tuck is like, hey, here's a blade bomb, a light bomb.
Yeah.
And that takes everybody out.
But the room, they set the bomb off in a room that's like 20 by 10, but that bomb illuminates the entire thing.
Right.
But don't worry. They get away.
Yeah.
That's it. They get away.
They jump out a stained glass window.
Yeah.
Right? Into a moat. Right? And this is where Frankenstein is being, like, paddled
He's rowboated away.
Like,
he's like, all right, bye.
He's like, save yourself! Right? You're like, just stop talking. You're just making it worse. Yeah. And then a gate goes down, and then they can't swim and save him anymore. And that's that scene. And then, like, Van Helsing, which, sorry, we skipped it, in his fight and where he shot the Wolfman, like, her brother, he was then himself bit. So now he's going to... He's got 2 days to become a vampire, which I'm pretty sure full moon... Sorry. God damn it. Too many monsters.
That's my whole thesis with the film. Too many monsters.
Too many monsters. The movie.
And then they... decide to go back to what's-her-butt's Anna's?
Yeah.
They decide to go back to Anna's dad's place to uncover more clues, and they're like, something about a mirror. I don't know. Passageway.
They handed Van Helsing a scroll in the beginning of the movie that had the same symbol as his ring on it, and they were like, look, this might have some connection to you. And then he's like, might? Like, I got a fucking ring. Right? And then, so he holds his scroll on. He doesn't know what it is the whole time. Meanwhile, Friar Tuck has uncovered this, like, basically this map of Transylvania that her dad was always staring at, but couldn't figure out what it was. And all it took was, like, the bottom
3
sliver
inches? I don't know.
of it. Yeah, not a whole piece. Just the bottom sliver was missing. Right, and basically they said,
he's like, by the power of God, open this portal.
By the power of Grayskull. Yeah, like,
and
it was so stupid. Yeah, it was open this door in the name of God.
Yeah,
right? And you're like, all right, and then it's not a door; it's a mirror ice thing
that was like a column outside of the goddamn castle. So it's like, all right, that's cool.
So now we're taken into the real third act,
yeah.
right? Where all 3 of our heroes are now at Dracula's castle, which looks just like Victor Frankenstein's castle.
All 3 of our heroes somehow get split up.
Right.
In the typical trope.
Yeah. And then this is where I stopped kind of, like, taking notes.
Oh, I stopped taking notes at, like, the second I started the movie because I was like, oh, it's going to be Universal's idea of a monster movie.
Sure.
To where, like, they have these ideas. It's like, oh, the female spunky person, the weird, quirky, quote-unquote, ugly sidekick.
So,
blah.
here's how I could pretty much sum it up here, right? And it's like I don't even need to go into detail. Like I can just sum it up. And if
It all
you guys
happens,
if you
someone
guys
dies,
have something to
bye.
make fun of, just comment on it from here, okay? So basically they get split up. Van Helsing confronts Dracula. He's basically got till the stroke of midnight to defeat Dracula and like bite him or whatever, or else he will become a full-on werewolf that's uncurable. Right?
But there's an antidote. So
Right.
the antidote is what the sidekick and the girl are getting control of.
Right.
And they kind of do. The sidekick gets the poison and he escapes, but the girl's trapped by another vampire mistress.
The
and
only
she's
one
the
that's
final
left.
one, and
Yeah.
so they're fighting. And the sidekick is being chased by the other sidekick. The other sidekick.
the sidekick, Friar Tuck is being chased by Igor.
Yeah.
And they're fighting on the bridge, the big bridge.
Well, they're not really
right?
fighting on the bridge. Friar Tuck is just running from Igor.
Don't tase me!
Yeah, he's like, ow, stop, ow, stop.
Meanwhile, now Hugh Jackman has embraced the wolf, and but not Wolverine.
He's running with the wolves tonight.
And yeah, he's fighting Dracula, and they keep morphing in and out of human form for no reason other than we want to make sure we waste as much money on the special effects as possible. And then Friar Tuck throws a silver spike at Anna, in which she stabs the last bride, and she dies and melts. But she didn't stab her in the heart. She stabbed her in like the chest, and she melts.
Yeah.
So like nothing makes sense in the rules again. Meanwhile, Frankenstein.
He was set free, kind of, for his own boat.
And he's been swinging around like Shia, like just all over the place. He's the one that bashes through a window and is like, "Hey, you girls are fighting in here? Let me help out." Because he's the one who actually distracts. See how like I forgot something in the form of like something else happening in this movie? So basically, huge Van Helsing, the stroke of midnight happens. And then the movie happens for 15 more minutes, and the stroke of midnight's still happening, I guess?
The stroke of midnight is supposed to be like the be-all, end-all of when you can.
They said the stroke of midnight happens, and when it's done being the stroke of midnight, so basically the 12 bongs, you're a wolf, right? But no, that stroke happens, 15 more minutes of action happen. Right. He bites Dracula, finally, and kills him. And then they were told that if you did not get the cure to me by the stroke of midnight, stab me with a silver stake as well, right? So Anna goes to do that, and she goes with the cure. She has the cure, and she tries to stab him, and he rams tackles her, and
breaks her neck.
She's dead, right? Meanwhile, Friar Tuck is going to stab him with a stake because he thinks she didn't accomplish her goal, but he's like, as the wolf, he's like, hold on! Right, and like he's like, whoa, and instead is like, no, she got me. Look, she stabbed me, but she's dead. Right? He transforms back into normal human form, and then the movie burns her in a pyre. And you see her up in the
images.
sky.
It's like, oh,
and Frankenstein's like on a raft of like 3 logs, and is like, bye.
Just goes off.
Yeah, and that's literally the end of the movie. It doesn't even go on to a prologue of being like, I, Van Helsing, or anything like that to set up any sort. It doesn't even right. It doesn't even set up a franchise because everybody's dead.
Yeah. There's no reason to bring anyone back.
Yeah.
God.
You know,
so
you guys watched I, Frankenstein, which was doomed from the beginning, I feel like, by just like a shitty concept anyway.
Yeah.
My main problem with Van Helsing is that it has an awesome concept. Like, you want to see a good Van Helsing movie.
Well, see, I thought Van Helsing was based off of a comic book that became a movie, but it turns out it was a movie that kind of wanted to be a comic book.
Yeah,
and I think
the movie that wanted to be a video game.
It needed more. It needed to be more fleshed out and to be stretched out. It didn't need everything to be packed into one movie. It needed it to be maybe 2-3 movies in general.
I just could have used some streamlining.
Sure.
Just a simple plot on this one. I mean, it's hard to mess up this movie. It really is hard. But I guess when you give Stephen Sommers $160 million. He's just gonna make a fucking live action cartoon.
So, gentlemen, what we do on the show to wrap it up is it's called the W's. It's who would you recommend it to? Why would you recommend it if you did? That kind of thing. For example, Jarrett.
My W's on this. So for me, it's very similar to what happened for the Underworld. My dad went to China and got a bunch of bootlegs, and a Mogwai. A good handful of the bootlegs was the Underworld everything.
Yeah,
and so that's the only reason I watched them, because I got them for free.
Okay.
So if you have them for free, do it. Watch it.
So if you have a bootleg of Van Helsing,
you have a bootleg from China,
and you have nothing else to do on a Sunday afternoon,
and I think it's if you want to live through what could have been the original
Dark Universe,
do it. Because I think if you watch the current Dark Universe setup, it's not going to be as good. Let's be real. The Tom Cruise Mummy Dark Universe setup, it was a shit show that also tried to involve Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's all a mess. It's all a mess. And that's just Universal doesn't know how to do a small intro that can bleed into more. They want their intros to be big. They want it to be loud. They want it to be something more than what it is. And I think it's all Universal's fault. I'll say that. But sure. It's a nice start.
Gentlemen?
It's a bad start. They could have done a better start.
Yes, they could have. I would recommend it to whoever gets to handle the next any iteration of a Universal classic monster movie.
Like the best answer that we've ever had. I would show it to examples of people as not to what to do.
As a threat of just like this, or just a don't please like this. You don't want this. I mean, this movie wasn't. And the nice thing about this movie is it was not a hit. There's some justification to that, and it makes me happy. Because it's so bad. So, I don't know.
I mean, I love what he just said there, but, like, I guess if your recommendation in the sense of someone that's, like, actually enjoying it, I mean, obviously there's people that are always, like, looking for brainless, mindless, just stupid video game, bad CGI type of action and stuff like that. They don't give a shit, essentially, about story or whatever, and they're just there for action. Then any sort of those seekers, because that's essentially all this movie is for me, is just a bunch of mindless killing, running around, and like set pieces, that mean nothing and have nothing to do with story or character.
Sure. So I would say that I honestly wouldn't. This is like a hangover movie. Yeah. This is. I was drunk on Friday night, and this was on Saturday morning. Like this is me. I'm cooking dinner right now, and I will turn it off when dinner is finished, and I will find something I actually want to watch. This is something where like HBO buys a batch of things from Universal,
yes,
and is like, we really want Fast and the Furious, and they're like, well, you got to buy Van Helsing too, and they're like, fuck, all right, fine. So I don't recommend this one. I sat through it because I had to. This was not one that I would recommend. But I will have to say that, I mean, there's some merit to it. If you need to listen to this episode and you were trying to get it, go ahead and watch it. But that just about does it. So what I decided to do, I said that we were going to do spoilers for your piece, what you directed. But what I feel like it's deserving of its own little portion.
Sure.
So what I'd like to do is invite you guys back to talk about something, and it's going to become a bonus episode.
Cool.
Kind of thought that I was like, you know what? I don't want to rush it. I really want to go into it, and I would love to have you back. So if we can actually have you back this week or sometime,
that sounds great. Yeah, let's set it up.
Let's and we'll title it like something like a spoiler alert.
Sure, totally, yeah. So if you're listening to this episode and you
you're like, well, I don't mind diving into that, or let's have you back when it's out for the public to see.
Sure,
how about
sounds
that?
great.
That's
great,
probably the best thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why would anybody if they can't see it?
Because the short really does. I mean, part of the excitement is hinging on the fact of what the reveal is and
absolutely.
Whatnot and everything. So.
And where can they find news, information, everything regarding Foxwood and things like that?
So Trevor and I's sort of like unofficial production company that we founded is called Ghost Party Pictures, and that's where all the news surrounding Foxwood, any of our projects in general, are going to be about. Ghostpartypictures.com for online. Goes at Ghost Party Pictures on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's where all the updates will be on festivals and any updating, revelations about what we're doing in the future.
Are you looking for future projects?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, we have a lot of like scripts and ideas and things we're developing right now. It's as in anything independent filmmaking, it's finding investors and money and getting stuff off the ground.
Well, I don't.
Yeah.
What? I was just gonna say, my brother and I toss around ideas, really stupid ideas. Of
oh,
just,
cool!
Like,
I mean, again,
it's all paranormal, kind of that like idea of like, what if this shit happened? To where it's like it's the start of basic like, oh, it's kind of like, oh, it's a theme, and then you get into it and you're like, oh,
sure. I mean, there's nothing,
and that's just
do
like
a podcast horror.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, there's
well,
nothing.
No, literally, that's what we've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, it's just my brother and I, we have this idea of not podcast horror, but comic book horror, sci-fi, to where we have these ideas of this is what it could be, to where it's like we've both come up with different random things of like natural. Wild Wild West that comes out to be something more than you expect, and then
like full of steampunk and
not even
cross-dressing
I don't
spiders
like,
and
there's no none of that. But like even like we've come up with like ideas of people like along a Northern California coast highway that they block off both sides of the highway to where there can be a divergent route around it, but on that one route they open it up to a group of teenagers and there's someone that terrorizes them along the way.
Oh,
and then
cool.
You come to find out that it's not one person and they've set up multiple traps along the highway. Like they use it a lot to their own advantage, but then it all comes to break down with a police officer that's like, we didn't sanction this. And it's
so something else is going on.
And it's exactly. It's the whole idea. I don't know.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no,
I love thinking of shit like that.
Yeah,
or like when like a couple of people like get pulled over by like the Pennsylvania
but even
police,
then, it's not that.
To
where
then
it's I love the idea.
You're ruining my joke. It's a Nothing But Trouble reference.
No, I don't know. I love the idea.
And then John Candy's also the daughter. And
no, I love the idea.
And then Digital Underground comes in.
Oh,
I love the
what
idea.
A twist!
I'm setting it up to be like such a bit like, oh shit, they're in trouble because they did something wrong. But then it comes down to like, oh shit, they're in trouble because someone wanted them to be there. Yeah, so
I was going to say, there's nothing we love more than talking about story and kind of brainstorming, and
that's
the whole development thing in general is so fun.
Oh, my brother and I would talk your ear off.
Cool. I mean, let's do it. Let's set it up.
Hell yeah,
we love it.
So, just to follow that up, where you can find us, as always, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Bombs Away Show. You can write to us, let us know what you thought about this episode. You can find everything about Ghost Party Pictures on our show notes for this episode as well, and we'll post a link on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Write to us, contact at bombsawayshow.com. And I'd like to thank our guest today.
I was going to say on behalf of Trevor and I, thank you so much for having us. It was a blast.
Absolutely. Be sure if you are at a horror festival or something, please, if you see Foxwood on the lineup, please go see it. It's freaking amazing. Like I loved it. I really did.
Cool.
So for that being said, my name is Jonathan.
I'm Jarrett.
And
with my hiccups.
Little new thing.
I hiccup a lot. Sorry.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's fine.
Oh, it's terrible. I hate it.
Yeah, I got nothing. I don't even have a catchphrase for this movie. Was there any?
It's awful. Avoid it.
Yeah. I walk in the shadow of death.
My stupid hat that changes proportions when women wear it.
There you go.
Okay. And this is Bombs Away saying, don't be so hard on movies. You might just love them. No, I didn't like that either.
God, that was stupid.
Yeah, it was really stupid. I'm looking for an ending here.
Don't be so hard on movies. You might love them.
I tried so hard to be Ferris Bueller. I'm sorry. Good night. Bye.
I hate you.
I know. Hey guys, John here from the Bonds Away podcast, and I'm here to talk to you about the place where we record. That's right, the Frida Cinema. What is the Frida Cinema? Well, it's a program of the Long Beach Cinematheque here in California, and it serves Santa Ana and neighboring communities as a non-profit art house cinema dedicated to enriching, connecting, and educating communities through the art of cinema. But it's so much more than that. Guys, not only do they screen amazing films here, but they also hold out-of-this-world special events. And when we're talking about special events, we're talking about shadow casting. Shadow casting, if you don't know, is where actors perform in front of the movie that you're seeing, and they have costumes, and they're doing audience participation, and it is just an amazing event. The shadow casting that we do here is films such as Rocky Horror, or Little Shop of Horrors, or Repo the Genetic Opera, or even The Forbidden Zone. Wow, The Forbidden Zone. Like, when's the last time you saw that? Or maybe shadow casting isn't your thing, but what about rooftop cinemas? That's right. Right on our rooftop, we do special screenings of throwback movies that you love, including Ghostbusters, or the current Beauty and the Beast, Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Jurassic Park. And that's not the only thing with these rooftop cinemas. They also have special people that show up, special guests, including the Orange County Ghostbusters and their vehicles and their costumes, or maybe Jurassic Park and the Jurassic Park Jeep. You ever gotten a photo with any of these things? I have, and it's because I was there at these events. So if you're looking for special events to go to, or like out of this world, just crazy audience participation things like Scott Pilgrim and with lights and sound and like things that you've never even seen before, go to the Frida Cinema. You can check out the Frida Cinema locations, filming, schedules, and everything entertainment-wise at www.thefridacinema.org. Or you can follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/thefridacinema and on Instagram and Twitter at the Frida Cinema. The Frida Cinema, for the filmmakers, for the film goers, and for you.
This has been a production of Big Bulb Entertainment, executive produced by Jonathan Young. For more media and information, visit us at www.bigbulbentertainment.com. Big Bulb, what's your bright idea?